Hello everyone, and welcome to The Hunger Games, Book 1 by Suzanne Collins, New York Times best-selling author. When I woke up, the other side of the bed is cold. My fingers stretch out seeking firm warmth, but finding only the rough canvas covers of the mattress. She must have had bad dreams and come in with our mother. Of course she did. This is the day of the reaping. I prop myself up on one elbow. There's enough light in the bedroom to see them. My little sister Prim curled up on her side, cocooning my mother's body, their cheeks pressed together. In sleep, my mother looks younger, still warm, not so beaten down. Prim's face is as fresh as a raindrop, as lovely as the primrose for which it was named. My mother was very beautiful once, too, or so they tell me. Sitting at Prim's knees, guarding her is the world's ugliest cat. Mashed-in nose, half of one ear missing, eyes the color of rotting squash. Prim named him Buttercup, insisting that his muddy yellow coat matched the bright yellow flower. He hates me, or at least distrusts me. Even though it was years ago, I think he still remembers how I tried to drown him in a bucket when Prim brought him home. Scrawny kitten, belly swollen with worms crawling with fleas. The last thing I needed was another mouth to feed, but Prim begged so hard he cried even. I had to let him stay. It turned out okay. My mother got rid of the vermin, and he's a born major. Even catches the occasional rat. Sometimes when I clean a cow, I feed Buttercup the entrails. He has stopped hissing at me. Entrails, no hissing. This is the closest we will ever come to love. I swing my legs off the bed and slide down into my hunting boots. Supple, supply leather that has molded to my feet. I pull on trousers, a shirt, tuck my long dark braid up into a cap, and grab my forage bag. On the table under a wooden bowl to protect it from hungry rats and cats alike, there's a perfect little goat cheese wrapped in basil leaves. Prim's gift to me as reaping day. I put the cheese carefully in my pocket as I slip outside. A part of District 12, nicknamed the Seam, is usually crawling with coal miners heading out to the morning shaft at this hour. Men and women with hunched shoulders, swollen knuckles, many who have long since stopped trying to scrub the coal dust out of their broken nails, the line of the swollen of their sunken faces. But today the black cider streets are empty. Shutters on the squat gray houses are closed. The reaping isn't until 2. May as well sleep in if you can. Our house is almost at the edge of the seam. I only have 2 paths, a few gates to reach the scruffy field called the meadow. Separating the meadow from the woods, in fact, enclosing all of this District 12 is a high chain-link fence topped with barbed wire loops. In theory, it's supposed to be electrified 24 hours a day, as interior to the predators that live in the woods, pack of wild dogs, lone cougars, bears that used to threaten our streets. But since we're lucky to get 2 or 3 hours of electricity in the evening, it's usually safe to touch. Even so, I always take a moment to listen carefully for the hum. That means the fence is alive. Right now, it's silent as a stone. Concealed by a clump of bushes, I flatten out on my belly and slide under a 2-foot stretch that's been loose for years. There are several other weak spots in the fence, but this one is so close to home I almost always enter the woods here. As soon as I'm in the trees, I retrieve a bow and strap of arrows from a hollow log. Electrified or not, the fence has been successful at keeping the flesh eaters out of District 12. Inside the woods, they roam freely, and there are added concerns like venomous snakes, rabid animals, and no real paths to follow. But there's also food if you know how to find it. My father knew, and he taught me some before he was blown to bits in a mine explosion. There was nothing even to bury. I was 11 then. 5 years later, I will wake up screaming for him to run. Even though trespassing in the woods is illegal and poaching carries the severest of penalties, more people would risk it if they had weapons. But most are not bold enough to venture out with just a knife. My bow is rarity, crafted by my father along with a few others that I keep well hidden in the woods, carefully wrapped in waterproof covers. My father would have made good money selling them, but if the officials found out, he would have been publicly executed for inciting a rebellion. Most of the peacekeepers turn a blind eye to the few of us who hunt because they're as hungry for fresh meat as anyone is. In fact, they're among our best customers, but the idea of that someone might be arming the scene would never have been allowed. In the fall, a few brave souls sneak into the woods to harvest apples, but always inside of the meadow, always close enough to run back to the safety of District 12 if trouble arises. District 12, where you can starve to death in safety, I mutter. Then I glance quickly over my shoulder. Even here, even in the middle of nowhere, you worry someone might overhear you. When I was younger, I scared my mother to death. The things I would blurt out about District 12, about the people who rule our country, PM, from the far-off city called the capital. Eventually, I understood this would only lead us to more trouble. So I learned to hold my tongue and to turn my features into an indifferent mask so that no one could ever read my thoughts. Do my work quietly in school, make only polite small talk in the public market. Discuss little more than trades in the hub, which is the black market where I make most of my money. Even at home, where I am less pleasant, I avoid discussing tricky topics like the reaping or food shortages or the Hunger Games. Friends might begin to repeat my words, and then where will we be? In the woods, or it's the only person with whom I can be myself, Gail. I can feel the muscles in my feet relaxing, my pace quickening as I climbed the hills to our place, a rock ledge overlooking a valley. A thicket of berry bushes protects it from unwanted eyes. The sight of him waiting there brings on a smile. Gail says I never smile except in the woods. Hey, Catnip, said Gail. My real name is Katniss, but when I first told him, I had barely whispered it, so he thought I said catnip. That's when this crazy lynx started following me around the woods looking for handouts. It became his official nickname for me. I finally had to kill the lynx because he scared off game. I almost regretted it, because he wasn't bad company, but I got a decent price for his palate. Look what I shot, Gail holds up a loaf of bread with an arrow stuck in it. I laughed. It's real bakery bread, not the flat, dense loaves we make from our grain rations. I take it in my hands, pull out the arrow, and hold the puncture in the crust to my nose, inhaling the fragrance that makes my mouth flood with saliva. Fine bread like this is for a special occasion. Still warm, I say. He must have been at the bakery at the crack of dawn to trade for it. What did it cost you? Just a squirrel. Think the old man was feeling sentimental this morning, said Gail. Even wish me luck. Well, we all feel a little closer today, don't we? I said, not even bothering to roll my eyes. Prim left us a cheese. I pulled it out, his expression burning at the tree. Thank you, Prim. We'll have a real feast. Suddenly he paused into a capital accent as he mimics Effie, trinket, the mechanical, upbeat woman who arrives once a year to read out the names at the reaping. I almost forgot. Happy Hunger Games. He plucks a few blackberries from the bushes around us and made the odds. He tossed a berry in a high arc towards me. I caught it in my mouth and break it, the delicious skin with my teeth. The sweet tartness exploded in my tongue. Be ever in your favor. I finished with equal bravado. We have to joke about it because the alternative is to be scared out of our wits. Besides, the capital accent is so effective. Almost anything sounds funny in it. I watch as Gail pulls out his knife and slices the bread. He could be my brother, straight black hair, olive skin, who even have the same gray eyes, but we're not related, at least not closely. Most of the families who work at the coal mines resemble one another this way. That's why my mother and Prim, with their light hair and blue eyes, always look out of place. They are. Mother's parents were part of the small merchant class that caters to officials, peacemakers, and the occasional seam customer. They ran in the prosthetic shop in the nicer part of District 12. Since almost no one could afford doctors, apothecaries, or healers. My father got to know my mother because on his hunts he would sometimes collect medical herbs and sell them to her shop to be brewed into remedies. She must have really loved him to leave her home for the scene. I try to remember that when all I can see is the woman who sat by, blank and unreachable, while her children turned to skin and bones. I tried to forgive her for my father's sake, but to be honest, I am not the forgiving type. Gail spreads the bread slice with the soft goat cheese, carefully placing a basil leaf on each while I strip the branches of their berries. We settled back in a nook in the rocks. From this place we're invisible, but have a clear view of the valley, which is teeming with summer life, greens to gather, roots to dig, fish irresistant in the sunlight. The day is glorious with a blue sky and soft breeze. The food's wonderful with the cheese seeping into the warm bread and the berries bursting in our mouths. Everything would be perfect if this really was a holiday. If all the day off meant was roaming the mountains with Gail, hunting for tonight's supper. But instead we have to be standing in the square at 2 o'clock waiting for the names to be called. We could do it, you know. Gail says, what? Leave the district, run off, live in the woods, you and I. We can make it, says Gail. I don't know how to respond. The idea is so preposterous. If we didn't have so many kids, he asked quickly. They're not our kids, of course, but they might as well be. Gail's 2 little brothers and a sister. Prem and you may as well throw in our mothers too, because how would they live without us? Who would fill those mouths that are always asking for more? With both of us hunting daily, there are still nights when game has to be swapped for lard or shoelaces or wool. Still nights when we go to bed with our stomachs growling. I would never want to have kids, I said. I might if I didn't live here, says Gail. But you do, I said, irritated. Forget it, he snaps back. The conversation feels all wrong. Leave. How could I leave Prem, who is the only person in the world I'm certain I love, and Gail is devoted to his family. We can't leave, so why bother talking about it? And even if we did, where did this stuff about having kids come from? There's never been anything romantic between Gail and me. When we met, I was a skinny 12-year-old, and although he was only 2 years older, he already looked like a man. It took a long time for us to even become friends, to stop haggling over every trade and begin helping each other out. Besides, if we want kids, Gail won't have any trouble finding a wife. Besides, if he wants kids, Gail won't have any trouble finding a wife. He's good looking, he's strong enough to handle the work in the mines, and he can hunt. You can tell by the way the girls whisper about him when he walks by in school that they want him. It makes me jealous, but not for the reason people would think. Good hunting partners are hard to find. What do you want to do? I ask. We can hunt, fish, or gather. Let's fish at the lake. We can leave our poles and gather in the woods. Get something nice for tonight, he says. Tonight, after the reaping, everyone is supposed to celebrate. And a lot of people do, out of relief that their children have been spared for another year. But at least 2 families will pull their shutters, lock their doors, and try to figure out how they will survive the painful weeks to come. We make out well. The predators ignore us on a day when easier prey abounds. By late morning we have a dozen fish, a bag of greens, and best of all, a gallon of strawberries. I found the patch a few years ago, but Gail had the idea to string mesh nets around it to keep out the animals. On the way home, we swung by the Hob, the black market that operates in an abandoned warehouse that once held coal. When they came up with a more efficient system that transports the coal directly from the mines to the trains. The hub gradually took over the spot. Most businesses are closed by this time on reaping day, but the black market's still fairly busy. We usually trade 6 of the fish for good bread, the other 2 for salt. Greasy say the bony old woman who sells bowls of hot soup for a large kettle takes half the greens off our hands in exchange for a couple of chunks of paraffin. We might do a tad better elsewhere, but we also make an effort to keep on good terms with Greasy say. She's the only one who's been constantly being counted on to buy wild dogs. We don't hunt them on purpose, but if you're attacked and you take out a dog or two, well, meat is meat. Once it's in the soup, I'll call it beef, Greasy says with a wink. No one in the soon would turn up their noses at a good wild dog, but the peacekeepers who won't come to the hall can afford to be a little choosier. When we finish our business at the market, we go to the back door of the mayor's house to sell half the strawberries, knowing he has a particular fondness for them and can afford our price. The mayor's daughter, Madge, opens the door. She's in my year at school. Being the mayor's daughter, you expect her to be a snob, but she's alright. She just keeps to herself like me, since neither of us really, as a group of friends, we seem to end up together a lot at school. Eating lunch, sitting next to each other at assemblies, partnering for sport activities. We rarely talk, which suits us both just fine. Today, her job school uniform has been replaced by an expensive white dress, and her blonde hair is done up with a pink ribbon, reaping close. Pretty dress, says Gail. Madge shoots him a look, trying to see if it's a genuine compliment or if he's just being an iconic. If it's a pretty dress, but it is a pretty dress, but she would never be wearing it originally. She presses her lips together and then smiles. Well, if I end up going to the counter, I want to look nice, don't I? Now Gail turns to be confused. Does that mean does she mean it, or if she's messing with him? I'm guessing the second. You won't be going to the capital, says Gail. Coolly. His eyes lands on a small circular pen that adorns her dress. Real gold, beautiful crafted. It seems to keep a family and bread for months. What can you have? 5 entries? I had 6 when I was just 12 years old. That's not her fault. No, not no one's fault. Just the way it is, says Gail. Large faced head has become closed off. She puts the money for the berries in my hand. Good luck, Katniss. You too, I said, and the door closes. We walk toward the seam in silence. I don't like that Gail took a dig at Madge, but he's right, of course. The reaping system is unfair. With the poor getting the worst of it, you become eligible for the reaping the day you turn 12. The year your name is entered once, at 13 twice, and so on until you reach the age of 18. The final year of eligibility, when your name goes into the pool 7 times. That's true for every citizen and all District 12 in the entire country of Pan. But here's the catch. You say you are poor and starving as we are, You can opt to add your name more times in exchange for treasure. Each treasure is worth a meager year's supply of grain oil for one person. You may do this for each of your family members as well. So at the age of 12, if I had my name entered 4 times, once because I had to, and 3 times for treasury for grain and oil for myself, Grandma, and my mother. In fact, every year I have needed to do this, and the injuries are come. Multiple. So now at the age of 16, my name will be in the reading 20 times. Gail, who is 18 and has been either helping or single-handedly feeding your family of 5 for 7 years, will have his name in 42 times. You can see someone wise who has never been at the risk of meeting a taser can set him off. The chance of her name being drawn is very slim compared to those of us who live in the scene. Not possible, but slim. And even though the rules were set up by the capital, not the district, certainly not Marta's family, it's hard not to resent those who don't have to sign up for the tresses.
What?
Treasures.
What's that?
For food, oil, grain. I'm reading The Hunger Games, baby.
Okay, baby.
Leon knows his anger at Marge is misdirected. On other days, even the woods, I've listened to him rant about how the treasure are just another tool to cause misery in our district, a way to plant hatred between the starving workers of the sand and those who can generally count on supper and thereby ensure we will never trust one another. It's to the capital's advantage to have us divided among ourselves. He might say there were no ears to hear but mine. If it wasn't reaping day, if a girl with a gold pen and no tresses had not made what I am sure she thought was a harmless comment. As we walked, I glanced over at Gail's face, still smoldering underneath his stony expression. His rage seemed pointless to me, although I never say so. It's not that I don't agree with him. I do. But what good is yelling above the capital in the middle of the woods? It doesn't change anything. It doesn't make things fair. It doesn't fill our stomachs. In fact, it scares off the nearby game. I let him yell though. Better he does it in the woods than in the district. Yeah, and I divide our spoils, leaving to fish a couple of loaves of good bread, greens, a quart of strawberries, salt, paraffin, and a bit of money for each. See you in the square, I said. Wear something pretty, he said flatly. At home, I find my mother and sister are ready to go. My mother wears a fine dress from her prior day. Graham is in my finest reaping outfit, a skirt and a ruffled blouse. It's a bit big on her, but my mother has made it stay with pins. Even so, she's having trouble keeping the blouse tucked in at the back. A tub of warm water waits for me. I scrub off the dirt and sweat from the woods and even wash my hair. To my surprise, my mother has laid out one of her own lovely dresses for me. A soft little thing with matching shoes. Are you sure? I asked. I'm trying to get past rejecting offers of help from her. For a while, I was so angry I wouldn't allow her to do anything for me, and this is something special. Her clothes from her past are very precious to her. Of course, let's put your hair up too, she says. I let her towel dry it and braid it up on my head. I can hardly recognize myself in the cracked mirror that leans against the wall. You look beautiful, says Prim in a hushed voice, and nothing like myself, I said. I hugged her, because I knew these few hours would be terrible for her. Her first repeat. She's about as safe as you can get, and since she's only entered once, I wouldn't let her take on any chances, but she's heard about me. That's an unthinkable, that the unthinkable might happen. I'll protect Prim in every way I can, but I'm powerless against the repeat. The anguish I always feel when she's in pain always wells up in my chest and threatens to register on my face. I notice her blouse has pulled out of her skirt in the bag again and force myself to stay calm. Tuck your tail in, little duck, I said, soothing the bag of the blouse back in place. Prim giggles and gives me a small quack yourself, I said with a light little laugh. The kind only Prim can draw out of me. Come on, let's eat, I said, playing a quick kiss on the top of her head. The fish and greens are already cooking in the stew, but that will be for supper. We decided to save the strawberries and bakery goods for this evening's meal. To make it special, we say. Instead, we drink milk from Prim's goat lady and eat the rough bread made from the tesseract grain, although no one had much appetite anyway. At 1 o'clock, we head for the square. Attendance is mandatory, unless you are on death's door. This evening, officials will come around and check to see if this is the case. If not, you will be in prison. It's too bad, really, that they hold the ribbon in the square, one of the few places in District 12 that can be pleasant. The square is surrounded by shops, and on public market days, especially if there's good weather, it has a holiday feel to it. But today, despite the bright banners hanging on the building, there's an air of grimness. The camera crews perched like buzzards on rooftops only add to the effect. People filed in, silently and sighing, and the ribbon is a good opportunity for the capital to keep tabs on the population as well. 12 through 18-year-olds are hard into roped areas marked off by ages. The oldest in the front, the younger ones like Prim toward the back. Family members line up around the perimeter, holding tightly onto one another's hands. But there are others too who have no one they love at stake, or who no longer care. Just look among the crowd, taking back on the two kids whose name will be drawn. Odds are given on their ages, whether they're seam or merchant, if they will break down and weep. Most refuse, dealing with the racketeers but carefully. These same people tend to be informers who hasn't broken the law. I could be shot on a daily basis for hunting, but the appearances of these in charge protect me. Not everyone can claim the same. Anyway, Gail and I agree that if we have to choose between dying of hunger and a bullet in the head, the bullet would be much quicker. The space gets tighter and much more claustrophobic as people arrive. The square is quite large, but not enough to hold District 12's population of about 8,000. Latecomers are directed to the adjacent streets where they can watch the event on screens as it's televised by the state. I found myself standing in a clump of 16 from the scene. We all exchanged tears, nods, and then focused on our attention on the temporary stage that is set up before the Justice Building. It holds 3 chairs, a podium, and 2 large glass balls, one for the boys and one for the girls. I stare at the table, looking at the girls. 20 of those have Katniss Everdeen written on them in capital handwriting. 2 of the 3 chairs filled with Madge's father, Mayor Undersea, was a tall, balding man, Alfie Trinket, the District 12 escort, fresh from the capital with her scary, white grin, pinkish hair, and spring green suit. They murmured to each other, and then was concerned at the empty chair. Just as the town clock to the mayor steps up to the podium and begins to read. It's the same story every year. He tells the story of the Permian, the country that rose up from the ashes of a place that once was called North America. He lists the districts, the casualties, the storms, the fires, the encouraging seas, that swallowed up much of the land, the brutal war for what little substance remained. The result of Permian, a shining capital ruled by 13 capitals, which brought peace and prosperity to its cities. Then came the dark days, the uprisings of the district against the capital. 12 were defeated, the 13th obliterated. The Treaty of Treason gave us the new laws to guarantee peace, and as our yearly reminder, the day that the dark days must never be repeated, gave us the Hunger Games. The rules of the Hunger Games are simple, and punishment for the uprising. Each of the 12 districts must provide 1 girl and 1 boy called tributes to participate. The 24 tributes will be imprisoned in a vast outdoor arena that could hold anything from a burning desert to a frozen wasteland. Over a period of several weeks, the competitors must fight to the death. The last tribute standing wins. Taking the kids from our districts, forcing them to kill one another while we watch. This is the capital's way of reminding us how totally we are at their mercy, how little chance we would stand of surviving another rebellion. Whatever words they use, the real message is clear. Look how we take your children and sacrifice them, and there's nothing you can do. If you lift a finger, we will destroy every last one of you, just as we did District 13. To make it humiliating as well as torturous, the capital requires us to treat the Hunger Games as a festivity, a sporting event, pitting every district against the others. The last tribute alive receive a life of ease back home, and the district will be showered with prizes largely considered considering of food. All year the capital will show the winning district gifts of grain and oil and even delicious little sugar while the rest of us battle starvation. It is a time, both a time of resentment and a time for thanks. Intones the mayor. Then he reads the list of past 12 victories. In 74 years, we had only exactly 2. Only one is still alive. Hamish Al Nathan, a paltry middle-aged man who, at this moment, appears pottering something unintelligible, staggers onto the stage and falls onto the third chair. He's drunk, very. The crowd responds with a fervent applause, and he's confused and tries to give Alfie Turkett a big hug, which he barely managed to fend off. The mayor looks distressed since all of this is being televised. Right now, District 12 is the 11th of Pan Am, and he knows it. He quickly tries to pull the attention back to the reaping by introducing Alfie Turkett, bright and bubbly as ever. Alfie Turkett trots to the podium and gives her signature "Happy Hunger Games," and may the odds be ever in your favor. Her pink hair must be a wig because her curls have shifted slightly off-center since her encounter with Hamish. She goes on a bit about what an honor it is to be here, although everyone knows she's just aching to get bumped up to a better district where they have proper victors, not drunks who molest you in front of the entire nation. Although through the crowd I saw Gail looking back at me with the ghost of a smile. As Reaper goes, this one at least has a slight encouragement factor. But suddenly I'm thinking of Gale and his 42 names in this big glass ball, and the odds are not in his favor. But compared to a lot of the boys, maybe he's thinking the same thing about me because his face darkens and turns white. But there are still thousands of steps I wish I could whisper to him. It's time for the drawing, Effie Trigger says as she always does, ladies first, and crosses to the glass ball with the girl's name. She reaches in, takes her hand around and to the ball, pulls out a slip of paper. The crowd draws in a collective breath, and you can hear a pen drop, and I'm feeling nauseous and so definitely hoping it's not me. That's not me. Effie crosses back to the podium, smooths the slip of paper, and reads out the name clearly, and it's not me, it's Camrose Everdeen. That's it for this chapter. We will start on chapter 2 tomorrow. I'm sorry for some of the words that I could not pronounce. I have trouble pronouncing words. I hope you all have a good night, well, good morning, or whenever y'all see this. Love y'all. Sweet dreams. Good morning. And I love you.